Is A24 Films the next Blumhouse? I mean, let's think about it. They came in strong with Hereditary. Then they followed that up with both X and Pearl, which personally I think were really great, especially Pearl, to me was really unique. And now they're having all of the recent success with Talk to Me, like, it's making me consider if they're definitely going to be a contender in the future and possibly could surpass them even. Okay, so I made that short, but I wanted to actually make this into a full video because I realized that these two different distribution teams have been getting compared a lot, and in reality they really shouldn't be because they couldn't actually be any more different from each other. For example, A24 Films is just a distribution team. Well, Blumhouse is a distribution team and a production team. So A24 Films doesn't actually decide on what happens in the movie or what the movie even is. They just distribute it. Well, Blumhouse actually has a say in their films. Another really big difference between the two is that A24 Films tends to focus on more independent films. Well, Blumhouse, yes, they do independent films, but they've also done major franchises, such as the Insidious franchise, for example. So now let's talk about what makes these two so great. And first, I'll start with A24 Films. So with A24 Films, what makes them great is they are not only strictly horror, they've experimented with a ton of other genres, but not only that, but they give a ton of new directors a ton of opportunity to shine and to make an original film. They are really creative and really unique with their films due to the fact that it's a lot more fresh because they are simply getting fresh directors that have never directed before and making their first film, so they can go all out with creativity, all out with uniqueness, and it's awesome to see. They're low budget, so they can't do a lot of crazy things, so they're forced to be unique to make it shine. And that's what I love seeing. There has been a ton of young talent, ton of young actors that I can just name off the top of my head right now, like, for example, Joe Bird! And shout out Joe Bird, he replied to my DM, and he seems like such a nice kid. Some other actors that have came out of A24 Films are obviously actors like Jenna Ortega, Alex Wolff, and Mia Goth. Also, the director of Barbie, her first and only film that she directed outside of that was an A24 film. So A24 Films know how to put people on the map. So now let's talk about what makes Blumhouse so great. So Blumhouse typically does big franchises such as Insidious, Halloween, Paranormal Activity, The Purge. So if you're into like the big franchises, like those names, then you'll probably are gonna like Blumhouse more than A24 Films, possibly. They also usually have bigger budget films usually. They are usually always doing horror. I think 90% of their catalog is horror. They might have done a different genre here and there, but it's like they're basically known for all horror. But yeah, they're different in A24 Films in the fact that they are doing mostly franchise films and that most of their films are going to be with actors that already have had a lot more experience than the other actors that be in A24. But then again, the negative of that is that you're not going to be seeing as much fresh and young talent. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to see that at all because there are definitely some Blumhouse films that are showing off young talent. I mean, for example, like The Black Phone, the main kid and his sister absolutely blew me away at how good of their acting was, like how good of a performance they had, how good their acting was, like everything about them absolutely blew me away. So trust me when I say, Blumhouse still is showing young talent. They just don't show as much as A24 Films. So, in conclusion, if you're a fan of independent films with lower budgets that are going to be more creative and more unique, A24 Films is for you. But if you're more of a fan of big franchises with bigger budgets and more experienced actors, Blumhouse is going to be for you. So it kind of just all depends on your own preference of which one you'll like more.